Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined by Ray Ora.
Hey.
Jonathan Voico's here.
Good morning.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thanks so much for joining us and making this little show part of your day. Here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a bunch of predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you've got a comment, question, thought, opinion, theory, whatever that you'd like us to address, as long as it's appropriate for us to address on the show, go ahead and use the tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. Here's the good news. If you're not watching the show live right now, you can also still use this tip link to send in a question, and we'll address it again, as long as it's appropriate to be addressed on our show, on the next episode that we do. I also want to remind you guys that the John Campea Show podcast is primarily a podcast. So if you need your daily fix of the John Campea Show, but you can't always be in front of a YouTube video, maybe you're out on a walk, maybe you're at work or driving, there is the John Campea Show podcast feed that you can get on your favorite podcasting app of choice, be it Apple, Spotify, whatever. So do us a favor, guys. Go and use your podcast app and subscribe to the podcast so the next time you need that audio feed, it'll be there when you need it. All right, guys. With that all down, we got a bunch of stuff we need to talk about here today, and we're going to start off with everybody's favorite topic, streaming price increases.
Yes.
Yes.
Ba-ba-ba-bang.
Streaming price increases. It's the weekly gift that keeps on giving. And the latest one to do it to us is going to be Paramount Plus. As according to Engadget, Paramount Plus is raising prices again for all the Tulsa King fans out there. I like Tulsa King. I'm looking forward to seeing the next season. It'll be going up. The option with Showtime will increase by $1 a month. The bare bones essential will play raised by $2. They wrote this over at Engadget. It's about to get a bit more expensive to watch Tulsa King, Star Trek shows, and the Sonic the Hedgehog spinoff. Paramount Global is once again raising prices for its streaming service, Paramount Plus, as reported by CNBC. This will bring the price of the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan, which is actually a pretty good plan, up to $13 a month, up from $12. And the bare bones Paramount Plus essential plan going from $6 up to $8. This is, again, a classic case of death by a thousand cuts. It without exaggeration, it really does feel now like every couple of weeks. Like seriously, like every couple of weeks, we are talking about this streamer's now increased prices. This streamer has now increased prices. That streamer has now increased prices. You want the big Netflix plan? You're paying $24 a month. You want Disney Plus? And you gotta, because today's game day.
Game day.
Ahsoka. Not Ahsoka. Damn it.
Acolyte.
Acolyte. I would actually prefer Ahsoka. But Acolyte, episode 5 tonight. Yes. I mean, if you want to watch that, you got to pay $14 a month now. Remember when it started? Didn't Disney Plus start at like $6?
Yeah, $6.99.
$6.99, right? Yeah. That was just like yesterday.
Or maybe it was $5.99.
We're up to like $14 a month now. Yeah. You're paying whatever for HBO, and it seriously feels like every couple of weeks we are getting, now this streamer's raised, this streamer's raised, this streamer's raised, and at minimum, each streaming service is now raising their prices at least once a year. Some of them are raising them like twice a year. And we're still, I think, kind of in that little bit of a nebulous area where, like, for example, $8 a month for just regular Paramount Plus. Honestly, that's not a bad deal. $8 a month for the stuff that they've got on there. And by the way, their library, I went through Paramount Plus again the other day, like not looking at the new stuff, but just looking at the library. They got a pretty decent library.
Yeah.
Some pretty good stuff on there to watch. And at $8 a month, in and of itself and by itself, that's not bad. That's the price of like one beer you can get when you go to the bar, which is one of the reasons I don't drink, folks. But for that, you get this catalog. That's fine. There's a lot of stuff on Netflix for that $23 a month if you want the top thing, or like $16 a month if you want the regular thing. A lot of content there. That's not bad for $16 a month. For access to the whole archive of Star Wars and Marvel and Pixar and Disney Animation and Nat Geo and now Hulu and FX and all that kind of stuff, the whatever we're paying for Disney Plus right now, that's not a bad price. But again, it's the death by a thousand cuts thing. We've talked about this, and we bring this up every single time. It's not so much that the individual streaming services prices are unreasonable. It's that when you sit back now as a collection, you're realizing it's getting unreasonable. It used to be, not long ago, you could have all the streaming service for about $30. Today, you're paying well north of 3 digits per month. Well north of 3 digits per month now. If you want to watch, you know, I don't know, you want to watch the upcoming Skeleton Crew. If you want to watch Tulsa King. If you want to watch Reindeer Games. If you want to watch The Boys. And I want to watch all these things. It's starting to add up. Like a lot. And again, I know we talk about this and we say it every few weeks, but it bears repeating every few weeks because they keep hiking the prices. Now, we are starting to see the bundles coming into play, right? Like what was it? We just saw Disney, Hulu, and HBO.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to bundle. I don't think we've gotten an official price on that yet.
Not yet.
But they say it's going to be significantly less expensive than if you had each one of them individually.
And wasn't that for a specific like service like a Verizon or something like that too?
No.
There's another-
This is for in
There's
general.
another
In general.
Comcast one for a different group.
Yeah, that's going to bundle like Netflix and Peacock or
and
something like
something
that.
else.
And so the bundles are starting to happen to try to combat churn and stuff like that. Maybe at some point we'll get like, look, just a streaming pass. Like, you know what? For $45 a month. And you know what? I'll pay it. $45 a month. You get Disney Plus, Netflix, Max, Paramount. Amazon will always be its own separate thing because that's a different thing for Amazon Prime. But I mean, $45 to just give me a true bundle price.
Right.
That'll save me 40% and I'll happily pay it and I'll never churn. I'll never churn.
And it's almost like they're funneling you into getting a bundle. You know what I mean? It's almost like these price hikes
Or ad
price hikes are
supported.
steering
Yeah,
you
and
into.
they're going to angle the bundles to be the ad supported ones, and I don't want ad supported. I want an ad free experience. And listen, not everybody is. I'm personally willing to pay an extra couple of bucks for ad free, but I mean, at some point it's going to have to happen because more and more people are turning to churning, and that's the thing they're going to combat. And the only thing that's going to fix it, I think, is getting this thing under control. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Paramount Plus is raising their prices again. They're still one of the cheapest streaming services, and they have a pretty good offering. But again, this means your overall streaming bill with all the different streamings you have is going up once again. What's going to be the breaking point? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, in the landscape of Star Wars, where there's been a lot of bad stuff, it's easy to forget there's also been some brilliant stuff recently, right? Rogue One was brilliant. It was great. First couple of seasons of Mandalorian, fantastic. Andor, particularly, I think is the best thing Star Wars has ever done since the original trilogy. And we got Andor Season 2 coming right now. Now, a little while ago, we got some disappointing news as Ben Mendehlson, who played Director Krennic in Rogue One, and he was fabulous in that. He mentioned that no one had talked to him about coming in to play in Andor in any of the seasons, and he wasn't going to be there. Very disappointing. Well, now apparently that's changed as Director Krennic is coming into Andor. This comes to us from the folks over at the playlist who wrote this. After all the words that Mendehlson wasn't coming back, however, Diego Luna said this past weekend at the Ace Superhero Comic-Con 2024 that Andor suggested we might see many familiar Rogue One faces in Season 2. I can tell you Rogue One is coming, so there will be characters that you will recognize, he said. There will be cool stuff for those who love Rogue One. This season is going to be very special. And then Playlist writes, and we are happy to report that Ben Mendehlson will, in fact, be back for Season 2, likely sometime near the end of the season. All right. There is a temptation in this to just say this is a member berries move. Like, you liked Rogue One? look, everybody, it's director Krennic. Remember him? But when you understand what Andor is all ultimately leading up to, like Diego Luna has already confirmed that the last shot of the final season of Andor is going to be Cassian getting on a ship to go and meet his contact that he eventually murders at the beginning of Rogue One. He said, like, the show's going to end where Rogue One begins. Understanding that that's what it's all building up to, having Krennic involved as the Death Star starts to take shape and all this kind of stuff, and ultimately what will be Cassian's destiny, that makes the addition of Ben Mendehlson not necessarily a member berries move, something that Star Wars has been very guilty of. A lot. But here it's actually justified. Not to mention, the addition of Ben Mendehlson is never a bad thing. This dude is money, like pure money. What was that one HBO show he was on? Was it Bloodline?
Yes.
Oh my God, he was so good in that.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about Bloodline.
I think that's where he became a household name, was in that. And he absolutely killed in that. He kills it in absolutely everything he's in. My God, even the scenes he's in Secret Invasion, when he's in Secret Invasion, the show worked.
Right.
It was a much better show when he was there. I mean, that's just what he does. He elevates everything around him. And I think this will be good for it. And, I've been corrected in the live chat. Ramon corrected me in the live chat. That wasn't an HBO show. It was a Netflix series.
Okay, yeah.
And brilliant nonetheless. He was fabulous in it. And I love this news. Now, it's saying he won't be in a lot of it. According to the players, they're saying he's going to pop up somewhere near the end of the second season. That's fine too. That's okay. I just think anytime you can put him in there, I think is going to be good for the series. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Ben Mendehlson is coming into the best Star Wars thing since Return of the Jedi in Andor Season 2, back as Director Krennic. I love it. Maybe you're more pessimistic about it. Maybe you do feel this is just another Star Wars member berries play. And that's fair if you do. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, death, taxes, the sun rising tomorrow, and another day that Blade isn't in movie theaters. All consistent things in this little adventure we call life. Ah, yes, Blade. They just recently, in case you've been living under a rock, they lost another director recently. They
Ray's
still
aware.
What's that?
Ray is aware.
Yeah, Ray is very aware of all this. He's keeping very close track of this. We still don't have, as far as we know, a completed script that a shooting script that they're ready to work from. There's no way in hell at this point they meet that November 2025 release date. I mean, if they do, great, but I just don't see how that's going to be at all possible now. Our lead, the two-time Academy Award-winning actor Mahershala Ali, is today 5 years older than he was when they announced him playing Blade. And it's left a lot of people, some people even wondering, they just don't care about Blade. Now, I've personally never believed that. I mean, I think if Kevin Feige didn't care about Blade, he would just say, we're not doing Blade.
Yeah.
Just that simple. But he clearly wants to do Blade, and they're trying. Well, one of the co-stars of Blade that we don't actually talk about a lot, in Mia Goth, she was recently promoting her new film, Maxine, and they specifically asked her about the delays to the project. And she said something that some people, maybe Ray, might take as maybe a bit of an encouraging sign. Our friends over at Joe Blow wrote this: Mia Goth was cast in the film back in April 2023, and rumors have been swirling that she'll be playing the villainous character Lilith. Lilith is known in the comics as the supernatural character who tries to take the blood of Blade's daughter. As Goth walked the red carpet at the premiere of her upcoming film Maxine, she speaks briefly to Deadline about the people behind the making of the film. Her reply to the inquiry about the delays and everything, she said this: they really care about Blade. They do. They want to make a great movie. That's the sense I get from them, and that feels good. Okay. While there have been a lot of pessimistic people who've been saying, they just don't care about Blade. I've never believed that. There have also been defenders saying, John, what's the problem? They just want to make sure they make a really good movie. Okay, I believe that. But they want to make sure they make a really good movie every time they make a movie. And they've managed to make 30 other ones that have come off relatively smoothly, some a little bit more bumpy than others. But Mia Goth now, one of the stars of the movie, instead of coming out and complaining and saying, I've had my schedule on hold to make this thing, blah, blah, blah. She's saying that in her talks with them, and the impression they're getting is that they're just really committed to wanting to make the best Blade movie they can. Now, to which Ray chuckles.
I'm just saying it should be an Oscar contender by now.
It should be up for the Oscars. It should have been on Disney Plus by now. I mean, that's where it should have been by now.
I've learned to cope with the pain. Something happens often. You start, you just start becoming immune to all the hurt and pain.
Desensitized, numb.
Yeah, numb. I'm so numb to the delays. It doesn't matter. They could delay every day. It won't affect me anymore.
Well, I got news for you.
I don't believe that.
They're gonna.
I don't believe that it won't affect you anymore.
I actually have this picture in my head. Remember the Fallout series when they go into that medical facility and they have all those zombies inside the little glass things? I have a feeling Mia Goth and Mahershala are going to be in one of those things, waiting for this Blade movie to come out. I mean, I whatever. It's just become whatever.
Ray or on the John Campea Show comments on the status of Blade. Whatever. At this point. Okay, but let me ask you this though, Ray, as the one in the room I'm excited about Blade too, but I think it's easy to say that you're the most excited in this room about Blade. One of the stars is now saying, look, basically implying that the main reason this thing is taking so long is because they are simply not willing. This is the implied message that they are not willing to just rush something out. Like if it's not at a place, even though it's taking way longer than it should, if it's not at a place that they feel good about it, they're holding out. Because I'll tell you what, Ray, if we were still under Bob Chapek, I think at this point, Bob Chapek just says, screw it, just make it. Whatever script you got now, make it and get it out so we can put it on Disney Plus.
The last thing we need.
Which is the last thing we need. She seems to be implying they're so committed to this movie that even though it's taking an unreasonable amount of time, they want to make sure they get it just right. How do you feel about that?
Well, my previous comments, like if you ever go back to any of our Blade topic segments, like I've mentioned that I'm hoping it's because they want to release a good movie because it's a property that I love. It got me into Marvel, like I said. I'm hoping she's right, and this is not just no smoke screen, and she doesn't really know what's going on, because that's the worst. Like, keep us updated with the real facts of if it's a real shit show, if you have nothing, if you're gonna just force this movie. I'm just, there's no more taking like the numbers off the calendar to waiting for this
like
movie.
A Christmas advent
if it comes out, if it shows up on my front porch, I'm gonna open the package. But if not, I'm just gonna say it's a lost. I'm gonna file a lost and found thing, whatever, with the.
So here's the thing, though, too. Like I am not of the mind that studios owe updates to audiences. I don't believe that at all. But in a situation like this, where you literally on stage, I think it was Comic-Con.
Yep.
You made a big deal in front of an audience of 6,000 people and a world watching. We got something for you guys. Mahershala Ali is Blade, and bring him out. And you are pushing out that story. You're advertising it to the world. And then year after year after year after year passes. I do not believe studios owe audiences explanations about where things are at. But I think there is an exception in the case of Blade, where you keep telling everybody, hey guys, we're doing this. And we're now 5 years later, and we don't really know where things are. In this one unique situation, maybe they do owe the audience a bit of an explanation.
If you can give us release windows and then back out of those windows
constantly,
then they do kind of owe something else. I mean, now I'm just waiting. It doesn't matter what news comes up, even if the costume pictures come out. I want to see this thing in motion, like in front of my face in the theater.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Mia Goth is saying, listen, the reason it's taking so long is because They just don't think they've had it right yet, and they want to make sure they get it right to put it out. Sounds like a little bit of PR spin, but maybe there's legitimacy to that. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? There's a cartoon show called One Piece. Apparently, it's got 95 seasons or something like that. 3,800 episodes. I don't know. Apparently, it's a really, really big thing. And a lot of our viewers have tried to encourage me for years to go and check it out. So I finally relented. I'm like, okay. And I didn't like it. Didn't work for me at all. Then Netflix puts out a live action version of One Piece. And because I didn't like the animated thing, I was like, not really interested. But a bunch of people, a bunch of our viewers said, John, you know what? I really think you're going to like this. So finally one weekend, I relented. Anne was out of town. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try watching some One Piece. Loved it.
It's delightful.
It's delightful. It's really fun. I just surprisingly, since I didn't like the anime, I really enjoyed the live action. I think the cast is perfect for it. What's his name? Luffy?
Luffy, whatever.
Luffy?
Yeah,
Luffy
I
is
I don't know what it is.
Frost giant. Sorry, Luffy's the frost giant. Luffy,
something like that.
Straw Hat. I'm telling you, he's adorable, and I love him, and I cheer for him, and I the actor to the character was perfect. Luffy is his name. And like the whole thing about his dad and or his grandfather and like this great collection. It's a very Kurosawa kind of thing that the hero's journey begins and other heroes join him on the journey. And like, it's actually really charming and I enjoyed it a lot. Well, season 2 is now happening and they just made a major casting to this as Late Night with the Devil star and Suicide Squad's Polka Dot Man star, David Dastmalchian, has joined the cast. This comes to us from Comic Book, who writes, the report comes from Variety as Netflix's One Piece has announced the newest cast additions. David Dastmalchian has joined the project to play Mr. 3, while other stars like Daniel Lasker, Cameron Johnson, Jazzer Jaslin will fill out the Baroque works. I don't know what Baroque Works is, but apparently people who know One Piece do. The 3 will play Mr. 9, Mr. 5, and Miss Valentine, respectively. I can already see some people in live chat saying, oh my God, that's perfect casting. I don't know who Mr. 3 is, but whatever.
I have no idea either.
All I know is that David Dastmalchian has like very quietly over the last number of years gone from oh, that guy's face popped up in something once. He was in one of the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight movies.
Yes.
And, oh, yeah, that guy, he was in that too. Like, lately he's been in Dune. He's Polka Dot Man.
He was a cop, right? In the Christopher
Fake
Nolan.
cop.
The cop, and then...
yeah, fake cop.
Yeah, he was a follower of Joker.
He got interrogated.
But he was in Dune. He's in Gotham.
He was Ant-Man's friend. The Baba Yaga.
That's right. He was one of the Ant-Man's crew.
He's like the Baba Yaga.
I totally forgot about that. And then, of course, Polka Dot Man really put him on the map for a lot of people. And now everybody's talking about Late Night with the Devil and how great he is in that. And so he's kind of very quietly becoming this dude. And listen, I just know you take a show that I have really found charming and delightful, like this One Piece, add a guy like this who's just proving himself to be a really tangible talent in the business. This is pretty exciting for me.
You know, One Piece, not only One Piece, but Avatar, the Netflix series, they cast like a lead that's so optimistic and so delightful. You can't help but root for these the leads in these two series. I mean, the little kid in Avatar, he's delightful. He's so like, you know, like they're just so optimistic. I just love characters like that. It brings like, you know, a smile to my face.
Well, I really like him in the show. I'm looking forward to season 2, and I love the addition of David to the cast. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Do you watch One Piece? I understand if you don't, because I wasn't going to. I would say give the live action series a shot, because Listen, is it going to win any Emmys? No. But it might make you end your evening with a smile on your face. And really, what else is entertainment for? Anyway, guys, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. That down. Let's talk about this, shall we? We mentioned earlier in the show that today is, quote unquote, game day. Acolyte, episode 5. Comes out. Now, all apologies to those of you who have been enjoying Acolyte. If you are, that is awesome. You know, that's the great thing about art. Art is subjective. It hits us all in very different ways. And if the Acolyte is hitting you in such a way that it's really causing you and giving you enjoyment, that is awesome. I'm not trying to rain on your parade. For some others, like myself, the show has not worked. I thought episode 1 and 2 had some promise, even though it had a lot of red flags. Episodes 3 and 4 have just showed a basic lack of fundamental basic writing skills. But that's just me. That's just how it's approached me. But we've seen that there's a lot of people out there, and there's a divided fan base over it. And I think it is safe to say Star Wars has never truly been at its potential or in its glory since Return of the Jedi. It just hasn't been. Right? There have been moments of greatness. I think we can all agree. The aforementioned Rogue One, Mandalorian, Andor. There's a bunch of people who like Clone Wars. I don't, but a lot of people do, and that should be mentioned. Rebels. You know, there's been a number of things that have been quite good and quite enjoyable, sure, but Star Wars has never been able to get back to the level of its glory of the original trilogy. And maybe that's an unfair comparison because it never will regain the glory of the original trilogy. That's like the greatest stuff ever made, but even come close to it. And I would suggest today they're probably a little bit further away than maybe they've ever been. And so I want to propose, because I had somebody write to me on Open Mic yesterday and kind of ask this question, and I decided to give it a little bit more thought. And today I want to propose 10 key things they need to do to fix Star Wars. Now, before we get into any of them, all right, I want to acknowledge a couple of things. Number one, not everything in Star Wars is broke. Clearly, I acknowledge that there are some things that have been good. But for every Mandalorian Season 1, Mandalorian Season 2, Rogue One, Andor, stuff like that, for every one of those, there has been an Obi-Wan. Wah, wah. There's been an Ahsoka. Wah, wah. There's been a Rise of Skywalker. Wah, wah. There's now the Acolyte. Wah, wah, wah. And I think even if you don't think Star Wars is broke, I think everybody will at least, at the minimum, agree it could use some tuning up, right? Some people think it's a complete wreck. At minimum, you got to acknowledge it at least needs some tuning up. That's the first thing. That's the first preface to this. The second preface I'm going to throw into this is that of all the 10 things needed, I believe, required to kind of fix Star Wars and get it back at least close to its glory, none of which are stop making girls in leads. Why is there a gay character? None of these knuckle-dragging, pussy, lame, idiotic nonsense out there, desperate political people trying to push their politics on Star Wars. None of that nonsense. The problems with Star Wars, I would contend, are some really true fundamental basic problems that cause any piece of art, any piece of particularly movie art or television art, to not work. And these are the things that need to be fixed. So here are the things that I want to propose. The 10 steps, if you will, to fixing Star Wars. Number 1, replacing Kathleen Kennedy. If you guys have watched me for a long time, you know I've been saying this for many years, right? And I say this, I am not a Kathleen Kennedy hater. I say this with all due respect. She is a legend in the business. Steven Spielberg, the greatest filmmaker of all time, says she is the greatest producer of all time. I think Steven Spielberg knows what he's talking about. Do you know better than Steven Spielberg? She's great, but being a producer is not the same as being the studio head. We've said this many times. And I would propose this, that fixing it by replacing Kathleen Kennedy, you need to do 2 things. Number 1, you need to get somebody in there who can effectively choose the right directors and the right writers and be on the same creative page as them. This has been Kathleen Kennedy's major fault. On the John Campea Show a few weeks ago, we went through that huge list, remember? Like, yeah, Marvel has its Blade problem right now of losing directors and writers, but that's like 1 out of 30 films they've done. We went through that huge laundry list of every single Star Wars movie that's come out under her watch that has gone through multiple directors, multiple writers, never getting on the same page. Star Wars needs to get somebody in this position who can effectively and efficiently find the right writers and directors and effectively make sure that they are on the same creative page. Without that, your projects are lost. The other thing about replacing Kennedy is this. You need to get someone who is committed to charting out an overall plan and direction for the franchise. This has been Kathleen Kennedy's second major falling point. She's unable to get the right writers and directors and be on the same creative page with them. That's been established time and time and time and time again. But her second biggest failure is the fact that she embarked on this Star Wars journey just kind of, let's play it by ear. Let's just try things and see where we go. It'll be like a magical journey. Like, instead of sitting down and charting out an actual plan for a universe that you can get away with for a little while, but it eventually catches up with you, and eventually we got the Rise of Skywalker. And even everything since, I would contend, guys, look at the Star Wars stuff we're getting today. It's a bunch of random things that they just feel like they're throwing out there. There's no cohesive plan to this universe. And until you do, and by the way, these things are in no particular order, but this is the thing you got to start with, because until you get somebody who can get the right directors and the right writers and be on the same creative page with them, and somebody in there committed to charting out a true creative direction for your universe, you're just a fish flopping around in a boat. That's got to be your starting block. You got to do that. And all due respect to the great George Lucas, who personally handpicked Kathleen Kennedy, I get why he did, because on paper it looked like a good pick. I supported his pick. But you can make something that's a good pick in theory, realize it's not working, and then you got to move on. I think Disney needs to move on. I think Kathleen Kennedy needs to move on as well. So there's that, and that's one everybody knows. So Star Wars, fixing it, replace Kathleen Kennedy. Next up, prioritize theatrical. Listen, Star Wars was born on the big screen. That is its natural home. Okay? Bigger, grander scale storytelling on a galactic level has to be at its core and its foundation. I'm not saying it's the only thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm not saying that's the only thing. But we have now gone 5 years without Star Wars on the big screen. And even though they say they've got a Mandalorian movie coming and they say they've got a Rey movie coming, we've had like minimum 7 projects that they have announced and have not come to fruition. We have no hard timeline, no hard dates. We're going to go minimum 6-7 years without a thing out there. Star Wars got to prioritize theatrical, big, grand events. That is its natural thing. And again, the last point here, we're not saying it can only be on the big screen, but that should be its main home. Okay. So number 1 is the Kathleen Kennedy thing. Number 2 is needing to prioritize theatrical. Not its only thing, but prioritize it. All right. Let's move on to point number 3. Move into a new era. We've been saying this forever. It's time to get out of the stupid prequel era stories and stupid, like even in like Star Wars with it, we have done it to death. We've been telling stories over and over and over again in this same small, tiny window of the Star Wars universe's history. Like, you're talking about a galaxy that has lore that stretches millennia, and yet they keep telling stories that have to fall in these little things. And what happens when you do that is you constantly have to revisit the same characters. You constantly have to revisit the same places. Everybody gets mad about, that isn't part of canon. No, that was a small detail in a 1999 CD-ROM that 15 people owed. Anyway, you get into all these types of arguments and debates. It's time to do something fresh and move the things forward. Moving forward, 50, to 500 years. That would allow for basically a complete, clean page, fresh start of a new Star Wars universe without the need for having to reboot. Move ahead 50 to 500 years, and you don't, all of a sudden, you don't have to reboot your universe. It maintains your core lore in the universe, right? All the core lore stays intact. You're good. Now, and once in a while, an occasional one-shot story in previous eras, that can work as long as you use it sparingly. You gotta move this thing into a new era. Move Star Wars forward. They literally have not moved forward since Return of the Jedi. Well, the sequel trilogy started the process of moving forward, where that's a good thing, but now it's time to move even further past that. Move 50 to 500 years down the road. That gives you a fresh, clean start without having to saying you're rebooting. Next up, point number 4 of fixing the Star Wars universe. Form a creator's room. This is not necessarily something you have to do with every show or every franchise. But for Star Wars, I think it's absolutely necessary. Assemble a trusted, seasoned, and experienced creatives room to act as the main architects of the overall universe. Remember how we said in point 1 about Kathleen Kennedy that one of her major failures was her inability to sit down and create a long-term roadmap and plan for what this Star Wars story and universe would be. She couldn't even do it for the trilogy. Let's play it by ear, movie by movie, project by project. I don't think it can be the studio. It's not the studio head's job to do that. I think whoever the new studio head is needs to be hardcore committed to putting together a creatives room that will be the ones to kind of hammer out the Bible. You have flexibility to adjust, make adjustments, make slight turns, detours, make a little changes as you go, yes, but get a really good, talented, seasoned group together to do that. And I would suggest this. In that group, appoint one key creative as the leader of the group. And that can be a pure creative person, someone like a Jon Favreau. For those of you familiar with the Thrawn novels or the Heir to the Empire novels, maybe a Timothy Zahn. Maybe if you really want to shoot for the moon, a Denis Villeneuve. You know, bring somebody in to act as the head of this big put together great, and I'm not talking 50 people in a creatives room. I'm talking 5, 6, 7 great creatives with one key leader to kind of be the one steering the ship. Put that in there, and I think you're off to a good start. All right. Point number 5, I think, to fixing Star Wars. Gather experienced dramatic writers. Because here's the thing. I think you need to start writing your Star Wars stuff from a drama point of view. Now, I'm not saying all Star Wars shows need to be Andor or that all Star Wars shows need to be Succession. But what I would say is this, is that I would rather see you build from a point of view of Succession and then add elements of adventure and action and fun, as opposed to what Star Wars has been doing, which is start by building Transformers and then trying to add drama to it. Start with a core, strong, dramatic base in your stories and add the fun, add the adventure, all that kind of stuff as you go, as opposed to what they have been doing. Start with something like Transformers and try to then add in dramatic elements.
Attack me.
Yeah, attack me with all your might. What? Who are you?
Don't worry about that. Just
I've been attacking you for a few minutes here, and you don't seem to be doing very well, little girl. Anyway. And I think that all starts with getting experienced, seasoned, dramatic writers. People who really know how to write deep characters, great drama, great narrative, and then add the other elements to it as you go. But I think that needs to be their starting point. Okay. Next up, point 6. Make adventure your North Star. Make adventure your North Star. The heart of Star Wars, right from this shot of Luke looking off into the distance, has been adventure, right? Now, you might be saying, but John, in your previous point, you said start with drama. Well, yes, I do think you start with drama. But here's the thing about adventure. Adventure is at the heart of everything Star Wars. You look at the original movies, Star Wars is an adventure. Empire is an adventure. Return of the Jedi is an adventure. They had great dramatic elements, but it was a heart of adventure. You look at something like Obi-Wan, there's no adventure. There's some interesting story elements in there, but there's no adventure. Ahsoka was completely devoid of any sense of adventure. So far, Acolyte is completely devoid of any sense of adventure. But John, how can you be both dramatic and have adventure? Well, I would say this. I would say, first of all, Andor is a great example of that. It's heavy drama, but it's also got great adventure. But other great movies like Hunt for Red October is at its core a drama, but is infused with great adventure. Skyfall, the James Bond film, is at its core drama, but it's a pure adventure. Lord of the Rings films are dramatic pieces infused with adventure. Interstellar, that Jonathan brought up to me earlier, is another great example of a movie that at its core is a drama, but it's truly an adventure. And I think Star Wars needs to find its heart again. It needs to find that sense of adventure in their stuff, because that's a core DNA thing of the original movies. All right. Number 6 is make adventure your North Star again. Let's get on to number 7. Get serious about Disney Plus shows. Like a little bit earlier, we mentioned that one of the key things is to prioritize theatrical again, because theatrical has been completely thrown aside. It needs to be the priority, but it doesn't mean that that's the only thing you can do. I don't mind in concept the idea of doing some Disney Plus shows, but it's time to get serious about them, right? You don't look at Last of Us and see 21-minute episodes for 5 episodes. You don't see Succession or Stranger Things or House of the Dragon just throwing out these half-witted, half-hearted kind of attempts at just throwing something on your streamer. I would say this, hour-long episodes at minimum. If you don't have a concept for a show that requires a minimum hour-long episodes to truly tell a chapter of your show, as long as it's not a sitcom, sitcoms are different, you can do those in smaller packages, then I'd say you don't have a really good show idea. If your show idea doesn't have at its core or doesn't require or necessitate like hour-long episodes to truly tell each chapter of your story with a true beginning, middle, and end with satisfactory plot elements and things like that, if your show doesn't facilitate that, then you don't have a good idea for a show. So hour-long episodes at minimum. Also, 8 to 12 episode season lengths. Get past this damn 6-episode nonsense. Because at this point, the Disney Plus stuff are not shows. They're half-hearted movie ideas that they don't think they can make into good movies, so they manipulate them out to try to stretch them into TV series of some way, shape, or form. Also, if you're going to do a show, establish the why of a show before the how. This is what I mean. At the end of the day, let's stick with what's current. Why are you doing Acolyte? What's the why? Now, granted, we're only halfway through the show so far, but halfway through, I still can't tell you why this show was made. What is the overall impact to the grander universe? What's our overall contribution to the lore? What's the purpose of this show? You know, who's the guy who does the voice of Ratatouille again?
Patton
Oswalt. Patton Oswalt once said in a joke, "Science is all about the coulda, never about the shoulda." You know, and that seems to be kind of the underlying formula with Disney Plus. You know what we could do now that we got Disney Plus? We could do an Obi-Wan show. Okay, great. Why? And I'm not saying there can't be a good reason to do an Obi-Wan show, but nobody stopped before they did Obi-Wan. It was all about the coulda and never asked about the shoulda. Why are we making this Obi-Wan show? Why are we making this Ahsoka show? Why are we doing this Book of Boba Fett show? What is the core impetus that is driving philosophically the need to tell this story? And I feel more times than not, a lot of times that I watch these Disney Plus Star Wars shows, the why is never there. I've never seen the why. It's only that they could. Because, well, we've got Star Wars and we've got Disney Plus, so we can do this. But should you do it? And why are you doing it? And do you have the right idea for a show before doing it? Or are you, as Mario in our live chat is pointing out, just watering down the IP? And that's what Star Wars has been doing. They have been watering down the IP by just dumping a ton of stuff on Disney Plus without ever fundamentally asking the question of why. Andor answered that question why. From the first episode, you could tell why this story was being made. A lot of the other ones, they have not. Anyway, let's move on to point 8. Point 8 in fixing the Star Wars universe: establish a universal threat. Now, look, you go to other grand stories. In Star Trek, you've got the Klingons, right? Even in that Kevin Sorbo Andromeda series, there was like the one big bad guy out there. Firefly and Serenity had, what were they called? The Reavers? I think they were called the Reavers. Like that, there is a consistent universal threat, right? A common dramatic thread. Let's bring this up. A common dramatic thread that doesn't have to be in every story, but their presence is felt and always there. For example, in all the Star Wars storytelling, the Empire wasn't always there in all of the stories, but the presence of the Empire. The Empire was that big thing that was out there. This globally consistent universal threat was there, right? Now, in something like Star Wars, you've got several options, and you can come up with new creative options. Be it a Yuzhang Vong, that's from the old lore Legend Star Wars. But hey, Star Wars has been known to pull stuff from Legends like Grand Admiral Thrawn and bring them into canon. The Chiss, Grand Admiral Thrawn's race. If you've read the Thrawn novels, there's some really cool things you could do with the Chiss and maybe make them a great adversary in the universe. What I'm saying is, if you're going to create this overall universe, you need to have something out there that is the common thread. It doesn't have to be in every story, but the presence should be there. And a lot of times we haven't had that in Star Wars at all. Everything is a flavor of the week. Every new thing that's coming out is just a new thing. And there's no consistency. There's no connective tissue. And I think having a consistent that is not always there, but their presence is at least felt, a global antagonist. Maybe it's the return of the Sith Empire. I don't know. They've done that in Star Wars storytelling before. Maybe pull that into canon. But something to have a consistent universal threat. Point 9. Build around core characters. All right? Like Luke, Han, and Leia. Here's the thing, and I know people are going to gristle when I say this, but think about it. This is true. Rey, Poe, and Finn were the right idea, right? That was the right idea, creating a new core group of characters. One of the big reasons Star Wars works so well is because, yes, it was a galaxy far, far away, and there are spaceships and explosions and Death Stars and lightsabers. Okay, yes. But at their core, in this adventure, George Lucas gave us this core group of characters that we followed, that we became attached to, and we followed. And the idea, at any rate, of having a Poe, Finn, and Rey is the right idea. And it started off well. They just, again, the whole thing of not having a plan and going off in just all types of wild directions, it kind of all fell apart by the time we got to Rise of Skywalker. But still, the core idea is there. It's like in the MCU, right? Steve and Tony in the MCU were not always in every MCU movie, clearly, but they were the emotional anchors of the franchise. As opposed to in every new movie and every new story and every new Disney Plus thing is this new thing. It's just so sporadic, watering it down. You don't have to have core characters that are going to be in every Star Wars story, like Tony and Steve weren't in every MCU movie. But just them being there creates the emotional foundation for a cohesive universe. And I think they need to do that again. Just not Rey, Finn, and Poe. All right. Number 10. And again, remember, these are in no particular order. Make Jedi central to the universe. Not every story has to be about Jedi. But ask any Star Wars fan who's been watching since the original trilogy, Jedi are a core part of the DNA of the Star Wars lore and a core part of the Star Wars story. I'm not saying one of your core main characters has to be a Jedi. Maybe they are, maybe one or two of them. Maybe they're not. But the Jedi are at the heart of Star Wars mythology. Right? You got your adventure and all that kind of stuff, but at the heart of the mythology of Star Wars is the Jedi. And by the way, can we stop this horrendous trend of demystifying the Force? One of the absolute worst things, and there have been many, but one of the absolute worst things ever to happen to Star Wars was in the prequels with the introduction of midi-chlorians. The dozers from Fraggle Rock who walk around in your blood. Think, we're in Fraggle Rock. You know, that's like, really? There's little civilizations living in ourselves, and they're actually the Force. And it is one of the stupidest, dumbest things George Lucas ever did. And I say this with all due respect because I worship George Lucas. But it was clearly, I think, the single dumbest thing. Worse than Jar Jar, whatever. It was the dumbest thing he ever did. And starting to, well, now we can just take blood samples and put them under the microscope. Ooh, good for you. You have so many midi-chlorians. Don't you feel special? It's one of the most idiotic things they've ever done.
Mystic syphilis.
You have missed. It's an STD. I must have got it when I got the handy from that female Jedi on Coruscant. Uh-oh, I caught midi-chlorians.
I said attack me. I didn't mean like that.
Yeah. I mean, because, of course, in that thing, you can just stick a syringe in a Jedi's arm and give a blood transfusion to another dude. Now, all of a sudden, this whole idea of demystifying the Force. You go back to the original trilogy. It's an energy field. It surrounds us. It binds the universe together. Life creates it. Life creates it. There's this mystery to it, an unknowingness to it. That was the beauty of it. And ever since the prequels, going into the sequel films as well, they've continued this trend of demystifying it, trying to make it a quantitative commodity. So can we please stop demystifying the Force? And also, I would say this, restore nobility to the Order, right? One of the things that I appreciated about the prequels, which I think are total garbage, but one of the things, and there are many things about them that I do appreciate. And one of the things that I did appreciate about the prequels was that George Lucas introduced the idea that despite the legends, Jedi aren't infallible. There's a hubris to them. There's an arrogance to them. And that not that they lack goodness, but it causes weaknesses and allows certain things to happen from a certain point of view. But as we've gotten into, as we've progressed, and now even in the Acolyte, Jedi are just one of the girls. Let's just hang around and chat. It's just, they've taken the nobility. That started a downward slide, that the nobility of the Jedi has kind of been lost a little bit. And I would love to see a return of the nobility back to it. So, to go through it all again, I would say, point 1, replace Kennedy. Point, and I say that with all due respect. Point 2, prioritize theatrical. Point 3, move into a new era. Point 4, create a true creators room with real creatives and give them a strong creative lead. Gather experienced dramatic writers from point 5. Make adventure your North Star, which is something Star Wars has been missing. Get serious about your Disney Plus shows if you're going to have them. Establish a consistent universal threat. Build around core characters and make Jedi central to the universe again. I think these 10 things, and notice how I'm not saying, do a story about this. I'm not saying any of that. I'll leave it up to the creatives to come up with their stories are. But if you put up these 10 guideposts, these basic fundamental things, I think Star Wars will position itself to maybe not return to the full glory of the original trilogy, but maybe get closer to it than we ever have before. But I don't think these are just neat ideas. I actually think all these things are absolute necessities. And then whatever stories you want to tell within there, perfectly good. Tell whatever stories you want. I think if you follow these guidelines, though, or set up for yourselves or other guidelines, I think they'll give themselves a much bigger chance of success. So that's just kind of my thoughts on the 10 things that Star Wars can do to, some people think it needs to be fixed. Some people think it needs to be just tuned up, whatever way you want to term it. That's fine. But I think these are the 10 key essential elements to getting Star Wars ahead. That's just me. Guys, question is for you. Do you like these things? Are there one or two of them that you love, or one or two of these points that I brought up that you don't agree with? Maybe there's some others you would throw in there as well. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is taking your live comments or questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick moment and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Miracle Made. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Miracle Made. Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so that you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. When they arrived at our house, my wife Ann loved the feel of them so much, she couldn't even wait for me to get home to put them on our bed. Miracle Made has self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevents up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. Miracle Sheets also have incredible comfort and quality. Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So go to TryMiracle, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you will get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to TryMiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. And thank you to our friends at Miracle Made for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over to your questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
First up, we got Down Under. In a little bit of shock as my local cinema near Melbourne closed effective immediately. It's been in operation for 96 years. The signs were there with a subpar C1 screen, worn seats, and staff reductions. Still one other smaller cinema here, but it's sad.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and here's a real unfortunate part about this is that something, we said this before, but like the pandemic was going to be like an older wound that gets infected and may not kill you until a while later. And I'm talking about the effects on movie theaters. Like we said, like, movie theaters aren't just going to close in the midst of the pandemic. The pandemic is going to cause damage to a lot of movie theaters that some movie theaters will be able to recover from and fix. But the damage done by the pandemic to a lot of movie theaters is going to just put some theaters and movie chains just in a countdown that they might be able to hold on for a few years and then go under. And then like some smaller theaters that just aren't able to make money to, like, they don't make enough money, so they can't update their facilities. The facilities get worn down, so fewer people want to go, which means they make less money. Having less money, even more things they can't fix or improve, causing even less people to come. And it becomes this cycle, which is really unfortunate. It's always sad when any kind of a movie theater shuts down, and we've seen a lot of it in the last number of years, and unfortunately, I don't think it's over. But sorry to hear about that, man. All right, what's next?
Raymond says, isn't there a 23 Jump Street in the end credits of 22 Jump Street? Production on Knives Out 3 has been delayed as Glenn Close contacted COVID and RSV. Get well soon.
Well, I mean, that's two different things. Number one, there was 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 in the post-credit scenes, but obviously that's just fun. You can overdo that. With Glenn Close, you don't have to actually end production. When one actor goes down, you just rearrange the shooting schedule a little bit and just start shooting things without them that doesn't need them, of which there's going to be a bunch. So I'm sure it's going to not help their schedule, but they'll be able to work around it. One way or another, they'll be able to work around it. All right, what's next?
I feel like someone else asked me this, but or asked us this, but where AL says, where can I get a poster next to Ray? I want a John Campea Show.
Yeah,
movie
somebody
poster.
asked that again the other day.
Yeah.
I don't have more of them, but maybe we should print more of them and give them away to some of our channel members for fun. I don't know. Might be an idea. All right, what's next?
Anakin Death Star says, new set photo of David Cornsweat in Superman suit has come out. Red trunks definitely confirmed.
Oh yeah, that was yesterday.
Yeah, that's been brought up. But by the way, I had some people ask me, John, why aren't you talking about the set photos? Like, because there's literally nothing to talk about. I mean, I'm super excited for the Superman movie. Everybody knows that. But there was literally nothing to talk about. I mean, we've already had our look at the Superman suit, which I think looks quite good, other than the red underwear. But what are you going to do? The red underwear is there. I don't like it, but I'll deal with it. So yeah, I mean, that's cool. But I just had all these people saying, John, why are you talking about the behind? I saw them. There's nothing to talk about. There they are. I did nothing new revealed. I just didn't see a point of making a topic about it. Anyway, all right, what's next?
All right, Steven says, one of two, hey, John, been watching since Man of Steel. I'm a bit torn on the new suit. Love the colors, the S, and even the S on the cape, but I can't help but notice how cheap the suit looks on him. Every other Superman suit is skin tight and looks better in that regard. Even the underwear, which I prefer, does not wear, should at least look better. I hate how much bigger they made it. It should have preferred, or would have preferred the Speedo look and a smaller belt. Regardless, my main real gripe with the suit is how the materials look.
I disagree. I think the suit looks perfectly fine. I really do.
People always judge these suits on set photos, and they do
yeah.
it all the time.
Yeah.
And then you see it in the film where they touch it up.
You see it in film in a proper camera and all that
so
kind of
much
stuff.
different.
But at the end of the day, I've been saying this forever. The suit doesn't mean shit. It doesn't. Listen, this could be something you might think it's the greatest Superman suit ever designed. That won't make the movie one iota better. If it's a badly written movie and the characters aren't good, you're not going to go, well, I still like the movie because the suit looked good. And listen, I go to this all the time. The single worst superhero suit I have ever seen was Black Lightning. That was without a shadow of a doubt, the dumbest, ugliest, most terrible superhero suit I've ever seen. But you know what? Didn't take away one slightest ounce of my enjoyment of that show. I really liked Black Lightning. And yeah, the suit was stupid, but it didn't matter. That doesn't change anything. And personally, I think when you look at the suit, there are so many nods and homages to a whole bunch of classic variations of the Superman suit over the decades. I personally think it's quite a good suit, other than the damn red trunks. I don't like the red trunks. I wish they had gone the Henry Cavill route without them, but they didn't. But other than that, I think the suit looks perfectly fine. But even if I didn't, it doesn't matter. It's not going to make a bad movie good. It's not going to make a good movie bad. It's the suit. Who cares? Anyway, what's next?
Bry Guy, and it looks like he's got a cheeseburger recipe, which you won't eat because it's going to have peppers on it. But toasted bun with honey roasted peanut butter spread on, hamburger, pepper jack cheese, smoked maple bacon, and diced jalapenos. Enjoy.
No jalapenos for this guy. I cannot handle spicy food at all. Like when I get wings, I have to get either honey garlic or honey barbecue or something like that. I can't even get mild.
Right.
I'm literally somebody who had 2 heart attacks in a Muay Thai class, and I got up and I walked it off. But if I bite into a mild chicken wing, you will see a grown man rolling on the floor, crying in baby tears. That's me. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. I'm such a wuss. I am such a wuss when it comes to spicy food. No jalapenos for me. All right, what's next?
T-Bone says, any chance for a boys after show that deserves it more than Acolyte?
I'm experimenting not doing after shows. What I am doing though is taking the next open mic after, like last night we did an open mic that was about anything everybody wanted to talk about, but I made the main topic of the open mic the previous night's House of the Dragon.
Right.
So I'm experimenting with, in lieu of an after show, taking the next open mic and having some open spoiler discussion about it, as well as anything else people want to talk about. So you will definitely see after the next episode of The Boys, the following open mic will provide open spoiler discussion about it, as well as other things too. And again, it's what I'm experimenting with. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, and I change it in the future. But right now, I think it's kind of working well. All right, what's next?
T-Bone is back and says, I got to shout out The Boys Episode 4 director, Phil Sgriccia, that every shot changes by the elevator beep part at the end was awesome. Can he direct a Marvel movie? Maybe.
It's always hard to tell how, in a television show especially, how much of it was the director, how much of it was the writer, because the writer's the main creative force behind TV,
Right.
director's the main creative force behind movies. It's always tough to tell, especially from one episode, but episode 4 of The Boys has got to be, maybe, I said top 5 before, it might be a top 3 episode that the show's ever had. It was so good. And you're right, man. The shot selection and everything contributing to the atmosphere of the scene. It was absolutely beautiful. I'm loving it. And it's good to see that their ratings keep going up. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety says, just learned that Ashes from Deadpool 2 was written by a winner of The Voice. Was looking up most successful The Voice winners. Yeah, only 3 had any success at all, and I don't know any of their names outside of the show. Their fan base don't buy records.
I mean, that's the thing about shows like The Voice. I mean, other than Kelly Clarkson from, what was the original show called? American Idol?
American Idol.
I mean, I couldn't tell you anybody that, other than Kelly Clarkson, I couldn't tell you anybody that came from American Idol either, or The Voice, or whatever. It's just, them winning is its own thing, right? And I really like The Voice. I love the whole format of it. I love seeing people who have nothing but a dream and given a shot and getting a chance to shine. I mean, I really love that kind of stuff. But yes, very, very rarely has it ever actually equated to a legitimate big star career, because it takes a lot more than just winning a singing competition.
Yeah.
But still, I'm always happy for them when they do get that stuff.
Yeah, someone mentioned Jennifer Hudson, Carrie Underwood. Like, those are probably the biggest.
Jennifer Hudson's, that's, but out of what, 38 seasons
So
or
many
50
people,
seasons now, and however many seasons of The Voice, and however many, like maybe 5% get to do anything after that. It's still great for them just to win those things, though. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, the bigger problem for me with May's turn in Acolyte is that it makes whatever she does from now on not believable and digs a hole that the show probably won't be able to dig themselves out of. It takes away the verisimilitude of her actions for me.
It was something. The May turn in episode 4 of The Acolyte nearly made me dry heave. Because it's not a Star Wars thing. It's just a basic writing fundamentals thing. And like, I literally put my hands on my face going, what are they doing? You literally just had her running through the forest going, I got to get to this thing to fight this Wookiee and blah, blah, blah. And then literally 5 seconds later, you know what? I think I've decided to turn myself in. Yep, going to turn myself in, going to betray my master. It's like, where did any of that come from? I mean, if it's the thing that screamed to me that their writers on this show are completely incompetent. And I should say, goes again to saying, oh, we got 8 episodes, about 29 minutes each, and we don't have the time to really flesh that out. Well, then don't do the show. If you can't do the show right, don't do the show. I mean, seriously, there's a lot of things that The Acolyte has done wrong. But that moment where May, literally out of nowhere, decides to go, you know what? I think I'm just going to turn myself in.
But John, it's like the Fremen, their beliefs. It is written.
I want to propose this.
Things happen because it is written.
This would be, and this isn't exaggerating either. This would be likened unto, in Return of the Jedi, Luke is back down on the Forest Moon of Endor, and it's night, and he and Leia kind of sneak away to have this chat. You know, the one where she goes, I have no memory of my mother, where he says, I have no memory of my mother, and Leia's talking about what she remembered from her mom, which all got retconned. Anyway, if during that conversation, as Leia is explaining to Luke her memories of her mother, if Luke all of a sudden goes like this, and pulls out his lightsaber and cuts her head off.
She had it coming.
She kind of did. I mean, she was wearing the outfit of another woman that the Ewoks had murdered and eaten at some point. So, whatever. No, but seriously, if out of nowhere in that scene, Luke just suddenly went, I think Dad's right, and pulls out his lightsaber and just kills Princess Leia right there. That's exactly what they just did with May.
Yeah.
In the opposite way. It's completely inexplicable. It shows they're completely incompetent, and it was really frustrating.
It's just like the novelist's crime of saying, and then all of a sudden, and completely out of nowhere, it's like, no, you can't write that.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Full Boil says, I became a fan of Mari Yamamoto, who plays Dr. Kiko Mura on Monarch.
Monarch, yeah.
Yeah. I thought she was one of the breakout stars of the show. Do you think she can be a good fit for Shogun? I would be excited to see her on that.
Look, again, it's the same thing. Any good actor in a good role would be great. She was fabulous on that show. So she's a great actress. So yeah, you could put her in there because she's a great actress. She'd be able to play any role you give her. So I'd be totally down for that. All right, what's next?
All right, the Dark Nick says, Batman Caped Crusader is getting lost in the shuffle. Voice cast is stacked. Executive producers Matt Reeves, J.J. Abrams, Bruce Timm, Ed Brubaker, Winter Soldier, is in the show's head writer. Animation reminiscent of the OG series and 40s film noir vibes. That's cool.
It's been getting overlooked because they haven't given us anything to get excited about. I mean, look, they announced this project 57 years ago.
Show don't tell.
I mean, it was the DC Fandom thing, right? That's where they dropped the announcement about it. It was forever ago. And we haven't got, so of course it's getting lost in the shuffle. They haven't given us anything to get excited about. And that, I'm not saying they won't. I'm saying, of course, right now, nobody's really talking about or excited about it because there's been nothing to get excited about yet. So we'll see. Let's see what happens once we start getting some promo materials. All right, what's next?
Full Boil says, do you have a favorite filmmaking duo? For me, it's Spielberg and John Williams. I feel they complement each other beautifully. Well, you went right to the top on that one, didn't you?
Well, I mean, yeah, but then you can say George Lucas or John Williams and stuff like that too. But when you say duo, in what way? There's a million different combinations. You're talking about director-composer. So are we only talking about director-composer, or can we include director and actor?
Yeah, I think it's any kind of film duo.
Because then you got to talk about Scorsese and De Niro, or Scorsese and DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Or Spielberg and Hanks, despite the Terminal. Or are to producer-director?
Hold up. Go back a little bit. Go back to that last sentence. I heard something dumb that just came out of your mouth. No,
watch movies with your eyes, not your butthole. Are you talking about actor and actor? Are you talking about cinematographer and caterer? I mean, so or are you talking director duos like the Russo brothers, Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor, guys like that? So I don't know. It's too broad of a question for me, to be honest with you. You'd have to narrow it down a little bit more. All right, what's next?
Lauren says, with a two-parter, hi, John and crew. Have any of you ever watched a movie under the influence of a psychotropic or hallucinogenic drug? I have not. If so, did it change your opinion of a movie, whether positive or negative? I think, by the way, if I were to do this, so you have not. The obvious choices for movies to experiment with are Wizard of Oz and 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I can honestly say I've never done any drugs. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm pretty boring. When it comes to all that kind of stuff. So honestly, no, never felt the inclination to. I imagine there are some movies that'd be a pretty trippy experience, but I know I've never had an experience like that, to be honest with you. All right, what's next?
All right, Sam Fisher sticking to his guns. I hope they do subtitle it Spaceballs 2: The Search for More Money, because following through on that joke 37 years later makes it retroactively funnier, and they can call number 3 Running It Into the Ground.
Except it only makes it funnier to people who watch the original Spaceballs, and most of today's movie-going audience has not, so it would be a pointless title.
And I think go ahead.
I was just saying, I love that line in the original Spaceballs. You know, we'll see each other again in Spaceballs 2: The Quest for More Money.
Right.
It's a great line, but literally, listen, your title of your movie is the title of a movie is completely not important other than its use as a piece of marketing. The title of your movie is the main frontline piece of your marketing. Titling your movie an inside joke that a very small percentage of people are going to even get is not the right move. And I love the original Spaceballs, and I love the line. But even I recognize it is a bad idea for the title of your movie because most of the people have not seen the original Spaceballs, and they're not going to get the inside joke, and it'll just be kind of dumb. I, on the other hand, prefer Mel Brooks' other idea, calling it Spaceballs 3, The Search for Spaceballs 2.
Yeah.
I love that because you don't have to be inside the joke to get it, and I think that would work a lot better.
And then how many IPs like that kind of fell by the wayside? There'll be like a part 3 or whatever, and be like, I never knew there was a part 2.
Yeah.
So.
All right. What's next?
Bry Guy says, Inside Out to co-director Ronnie Del Carmen is my top choice to helm the Bluey movie.
Okay.
Is there an actual Bluey movie?
No.
I thought
as far as I know, there is not a Bluey
Okay.
movie. As far as I know.
Well, oh, wait. There was a really long episode this past season, which people kind of consider like a movie.
But I mean, if you're somebody who
like
likes
theatrical.
Bluey, if you're somebody who likes Bluey, why would you want somebody outside of Bluey to direct the Bluey movie? Why would you not want to get somebody in-house who has worked on Bluey to do the Bluey movie? That would be my question.
And there's some sort of charm with the short episodes. It's just like a quick hit, you know what I mean? Of like just a little bit of life lessons and then move on.
But there would be money to be made.
Yep. And is he talking about live action or
No, I
animated?
I think animated, but just theatrical.
Probably animated, yeah. All right, what's next?
All right, Bry Guy has an elevator pitch for us. Dwayne's Fraggle Rock Johnson stars in a Clockwork Orange Christmas Broadway musical, songs by Weird Al, book by the writers of Madam Web.
I
I'm
don't
gonna
see
have
how
to
that could
pass.
fail. I honestly, I don't see how that could fail. Why are you pitching that to me? Get on the phone with Disney right away.
Yeah, this is like the Shark Tank of bad ideas.
All right, what's next?
Arthur D2.
That's what we should call the show from now on, the Shark Tank of Bad Ideas. That's the name of this show now.
There should be a Shark Tank with for Star Wars.
Oh, there
where
you
people
go.
come in and bring their ideas.
Bum, 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 bum,
Then they have to
bum,
jump, literally jump the shark. All right.
Eddie has the idea of a Jedi opening a pastry shop. Will the sharks bite? All right, what's next?
Arthur D2 says, so I've seen the fight multiple times, and the good twin lost when he picked up his sword and swung high. While the bad twin jabbed low for the kill, the bad twin said, Your Grace, forgive me, because he realized he chose the wrong side, resulting in the brother's death. I wasn't sure if that was the way it happened or not, but you've got to like judge it on who got the cut, because there's still a line of dialogue on after they cuts the leg.
Here, look, if you need to know, the Queen's Eric won. Had it been Aegon's Eric that won, he would have first killed the Queen to fulfill his duty and his sense of honor. After all, he just killed his brother to accomplish that goal.
Right.
So he wasn't going to kill his brother for nothing.
Backs out.
Like, that would be, like, seriously, that would be the stupidest thing in the world. He literally went against, because those brothers loved you. And by the way, neither of them were good and neither of them were bad, right? They were both following what they thought was the right thing and what they thought their sense of honor was. It's just that one believed they're both committed to the throne. But one believed one was the rightful heir to the throne, and the other believed the other was the rightful heir to the throne. And thus, their sense of duty and honor compelled them to separate from each other, despite the fact that these were two brothers who deeply loved each other. And so for him to go now to this castle to try to take out Rhaenyra out of duty and honor, and even be willing to kill his own brother to accomplish that task, and having paid that heavy price, it would be the stupidest writing in the world for him to not finish then that quest, considering it cost him the life of his brother. What happened was Rhaenyra's brother won. Rhaenyra's brother, the brother who followed Rhaenyra, won, killed his own brother, and then apologized to the queen for removing himself from her service. And we were like, what are you talking about? And then he killed himself out of the grief of killing his own brother. The other way around doesn't make any narrative sense whatsoever. And it undermines everything they had set up until that point. So anyway,
And-
that's kind of my take on
And
that.
if you had any attachment to the twins,
And I did.
and-
I loved them.
and you could blame Paul Blart for the cause of this.
There you go.
That idiot.
Kristen Cole, everybody.
Oh yeah, that's his name, Kristen Cole.
Everybody's
Yep.
favorite schmuck.
Oh boy.
Cannot wait for that dude to die. Cannot wait for that dude to die. All right, what's next?
Jay Newby says, "Are you guys watching The Mayor of Kingstown? My God, I love this show. Mike McCluskey is becoming one of my favorite characters in television. I'm so glad to see Jeremy Renner back in full health. I love this dude as an actor."
Well, let's be clear. He's not back to full health. Actually, Jeremy Renner just did an interview recently where he talked about how there are certain roles I can't even take anymore. Like my agent sends me certain roles and I'm like, I can't do it because I can't physically do it. I have not started watching. I love Mayor of Kingstown. Have not started watching the new season yet. I'm going to do that this week and get all caught up because I love this show. I've loved it from the very first episode. I cannot wait to get caught up on it.
What's the other show that sounds like Mayor of Kingstown? Everyone,
Mayor of Easttown.
Mayor-
Yeah, I know, right? But see, in Mayor of Easttown, Mayor is her name,
yeah.
Ah,
like
okay.
like John Mayer.
Yeah.
Whereas Mayor, Jeremy Renner is the Mayor, Mayor. Get it? They're two totally different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor of Easttown, Mayor of Kingstown. It's like they should have coordinated maybe different titles. All right, what's next?
Seconds from Disaster says, House of the Dragon is firing all cylinders. I want to point out that in the fight between the brothers, they gave the brother on Rhaenyra's side a cue as to who he was, a slice to the right leg. That's what I was saying. That was so we could tell them apart once it got confusing.
But so much damage got done in that fight, it's really hard to say. And that's why at the end of the fight, they brilliantly have everybody standing around like, wait, do we go and hug this guy? Do we go and kill this guy? Nobody knew what to do. Like it was brilliantly done until he said, "I'm sorry, Your Grace," and falls on his sword. Such a good episode. Oh my God, this show is firing on all cylinders. It's so good. All right, what's next?
Billie Jean says, where were you 15 years ago today? If you can't recall, just think about the moment you heard that Michael Jackson died. I will be watching the documentary, tonight, in his honor. What a show it would have been. Yeah, I remember that concert was supposed to be dropping around that time.
I have no idea where I was when I heard it, which is really weird because I can tell you exactly where I was when I found out that Heath Ledger died. Like exactly where I was. I could tell you exactly where I was and what I was doing and who I was with when I heard that Chadwick Boseman died. I couldn't tell you where. I have no recollection of when Michael Jackson died, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I know where I was. I
Where?
was pulling into the drive-thru at Jack in the Box.
I can tell you exactly where and when I was when I heard that Kobe Bryant had died.
I remember too.
Oh, yeah,
I have
I remember that one.
zero
Obviously, that's more
recollection
recent.
of where I was or what I was doing when Michael Jackson died, to be honest with you.
I remember Princess Diana. And I
I
remember,
also don't remember where I was for that one.
and oddly enough, I remember John Candy was getting my hair cut on Glen Oaks Boulevard in Burbank. Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right. Anonymous says, my problem with Star Wars is there's no moving forward. Everything is a prequel. It's like they refuse to look past Rise of Skywalker, but they will with the Rey movie. It makes them seem stuck and a bit lost, which is why I want the Rey movie. Oh, well, there you go. At least it's after the sequel.
Listen, that's the one thing. Because I think doing a Rey, doing a Rey movie is a terrible idea. I'll hope for the best, but I think it's a terrible idea. But the one thing I'll give it credit for is at least it's moving the story forward. If it can become a transition point to the next chapter of Star Wars post, the Rey era and everything, maybe that'll be a good thing. So that is the one thing I will say that I kind of like about the idea amongst all the other things that I think is a bad idea about it. But that's the one good thing about it right now. And again, while I am pessimistic, I hold out hope. I hold out hope that it'll end up being good. Look, I said this the other night. I said this last night. The good and the bad shows and the good and the bad movies have come out. None of that ruins Star Wars. Right? It's likened unto being a sports fan. All right? I love, and so follow the analogy here, okay, guys? I love the Toronto Maple Leafs. Have my whole life. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a great, historic, wonderful franchise. That, guess what? They've had terrible games and they've had terrible seasons. Hell, they've even had terrible eras. They haven't been to the Stanley Cup final in my lifetime. But here's the thing. When they have a terrible game, that doesn't ruin the Toronto Maple Leaf franchise. When they have a terrible season, it doesn't ruin the Toronto Maple Leaf franchise. You know why? Because there's always next season. There's always the next game. And when they blow it and they suck, I go, oh, well, that sucked. They played terrible in this game. I'll just look forward to the next one. And we move on. With Star Wars, no matter how bad Rise of Skywalker was, no matter how bad The Acolyte is, no matter how bad The Book of Boba Fett was, or whatever thing you want to throw in there, none of that ruins Star Wars. It just means they had a bad game, they had a bad season, hell, maybe they even have a bad era. But if you're a fan, you still just go, oh, well, okay, let's look forward to the next one. Hope the next one is an Andor, or hope the next one is a Rogue One, or hope the next one is a Mandalorian, right? And maybe it will be, and maybe it won't be. But if you're a fan, you go, okay, that was a bad game. Here's where we went wrong. This is the things where they made mistakes. Hopefully next game will be different. And sometimes it will be, and sometimes it won't be. And you understand, as a sports fan, coaches come and go. Players come and go. Owners come and go. None of that ruins the franchise. The one thing that has ruined the franchise is the Star Wars fandom itself. You know, I talked about this a little bit last night on my open mic. Because no matter how bad The Rise of Skywalker was, it never took away any of my joy of being a Star Wars fan. No matter how bad The Acolyte is, and it's pretty bad, it doesn't take away any of my joy of being a Star Wars fan. Any more than no matter how bad the Toronto Maple Leafs play in a season, it doesn't take away my joy of being a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. The one thing that has taken away joy of being a Star Wars fan are toxic Star Wars fans. That's the only thing that has taken away any of my joy of being a Star Wars fan. I might even say it's kind of killed my joy of being a Star Wars fan. Because the Rey movie might end up being crappy. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it'll end up being good. Whichever, I'll just go, okay, that was good or bad. Now we just move on. The Acolyte may continue to run itself into the ground. And if it does, I'll go, okay, here's why it was horrible. Now I'll just look forward to Skeleton Crew and hope that'll be good. Kathleen Kennedy's currently the head of Lucasfilm. Guess what? There's a time coming, sooner or later, where a new person will come in and be the head of Lucasfilm. None of that takes away my joy of Star Wars, and none of that takes away my joy of being a Star Wars fan. Only other toxic, poisonous, cancerous, pathetic Star Wars fans can do that. And they've done it. That toxic corner of what they call fandom has been the thing that has killed some of my joy of being a Star Wars fan. Nothing the movies have done, even the worst of them. Just them. Yeah. Star Wars fans take away the joy of being a Star Wars fan. Not the movies, not the shows, no matter how good or bad they are. And so, yeah, maybe the Rey movie will end up being as bad as I fear it will be. But even if it is, then I'll just go, okay, that was another bad one. Now let's move on.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. But anyway, that's just kind of my take on it.
And a couple of people have been like, oh, well, that's been happening since 1977. No, it hasn't. There have been people that have had toxic ideas, I'm sure, since even before 77. But they didn't have access to the internet. They weren't in...
Yeah, it's way more pronounced today.
Wrapping it up in some political agenda. They weren't trying to, subdue a certain people of, color or sex or whatever. It's like, on the level that they're doing it today is far greater than in 1977. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. What's next?
Julia Goodwin says, I saw on Jeff Snyder's newsletter a few weeks ago and wondered about your thoughts on the possibility of Warner Brothers buying Harry Potter from JKR. Do you think it'll happen?
I mean, the only person who can answer that question is J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, if she's gonna sell.
If she's willing to sell, that's her thing. She created it. She made it into the massive empire that it is. I could totally see why Warner Brothers would love to get control of it. Obviously, they would. Of course, they would love to have control of it and to be able to do whatever they want with it. 100%. But is J.K. willing to separate from it? I don't know that she is. She's got, because what are you going to give her that she doesn't already have? She's like literally, she is one of the richest women in the world. It's so what are you going to give her? Money? She's got money. So I just don't know. So I would totally be down for the idea of Warner Brothers. It's a great IP of Warner Brothers acquiring and owning the IP. Good for them. But you got to have somebody who's willing to sell it. And I don't know that she'd be willing to sell it. I don't know. All right. What's next?
Kyler says, do you think YouTube could change their algorithm so that hate gets less clicks and positivity spreads more in fandom? Or is it just a problem with human nature?
It's just a problem with human nature.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it is what it is. So, I mean, I would love it if YouTube could somehow manage that, but I don't think they can. And I don't even know that they're all that motivated to do it. YouTube is about getting as many eyeballs on as many videos as much of the time, all the time that they can. So I don't even know they'd be motivated.
It's not about algorithm. It's about ad revenue. And if the advertisers on YouTube, and I don't mean like sponsors, but that YouTube runs, if they're okay with being on that content, money talks.
Yeah.
So if they're not, then they'll suppress it.
All right.
Or demonetize it. Ray loves trench coats. On Open Mic this past weekend, you stated that you would do many things to get the Maple Leafs a Stanley Cup.
Yep.
Well, what about releasing the breakdancing tapes? Also, Ray not liking the girl at the trench coat sounds like something out of Seinfeld.
It's totally a Seinfeld thing. I would say this. Listen.
Now that I think about it, it does.
If a djinn were to appear to me and say, John Campea, I guarantee, and gives me a demonstration that they're truly a djinn and gives me a demonstration of their power, and says, I will have the Toronto Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup in the next year, provided you assent to me leaking your breakdancing tapes online.
Also, there'll be asterisks by the championship. Just a small little asterisk in the record books.
What are you talking about?
Because it wasn't real. Because it was like a fantasy, like wish.
No, it would become real. He makes it real.
Oh, okay.
Makes it real.
Okay, or fine.
Of course I would.
No
I would do that in a
asterisk.
second.
All right, no asterisk.
I would do that in a second. 100% I would. 100% I would. I have no problem with that.
Would you do a remake of the breakdancing video?
Yes.
Okay.
For the Toronto Maple Leafs to have a Stanley Cup? Yes. There's not much I wouldn't do.
I would eat a pickle for the Bengals to win a Super Bowl. But that's as far as I can go.
Wow. Not even a sacrifice.
A high price.
Because I believe that I believe in my team.
Was that innuendo?
No, because I hate pickles.
When you say you will eat a pickle?
Okay. That's pickles and the darker licorice are things I can't eat still. And I've tried them. I keep trying them every year. I can't eat them yet.
All right. What's next?
All right. Sam Fisher says, as an avid reader of the manga, so excited for the One Piece casting. Getting Dastmalchian is wild. It brings my hope up. They can cast Isa Gonzalez to play my favorite character, Miss All Sunday. I was worried she was too big, but maybe I was wrong.
Again, I let's be honest. David is not like an A-lister in Hollywood right now. I just think he's tremendous. I really like him. I don't know anything about the lore of One Piece, which is a good thing, which means I get to now watch every live action episode fresh and clean without any bias. And I'm just really liking the show, man. I'm really surprised that I do, but I am enjoying it. All right, what's next?
We got Anthony. It says 2 of 2, but it seems like a one thing. So get more writers who have a high caliber of writing like Tony Gilroy. The writing team should be the best of the best. They don't have to be uber Star Wars fans, but everyone should, at minimum, have seen the George Lucas movies to understand the universe.
This is the big thing that me and a lot of my fellow film fans often disagree on. I don't think you need, when you get in a writer or a director or an actor, you don't have to get somebody who is already a big fan of that franchise. No, you don't. No, you don't. You need to get somebody who's really good at their job. That's what you need to get. Because everything else will work itself out. right? Everything else will work itself out. I go back to this again and again. The director of that god-awful Dungeons and Dragons movie, not the recent one with Chris Pine, but the one with Jeremy Irons. The dude who directed that is one of the Globe's most fierce Dungeons and Dragons fans. That did not help that movie whatsoever. Just get people who are really damn good at their job. And if they're good at their job, they're going to go back and do some research. And they're going to figure out what's what, and that's fine. Just listen, it got to start and end with great storytelling. You do that, everything else will take care of itself. Everything else will come out in the wash. You make great movies, winning cures everything. You tell great stories, winning cures everything. No one's going to mind. It'll be okay. So just get these great people and let's go. All right, what's next?
Chip Crisper says, hey, John and crew, with all the Blade talk and Mia Goth news, I'm surprised that you haven't discussed the fact that Delroy Lindo has walked away from the project as of nearly a week ago. Thoughts, Bring on the Filthy?
Secondary character being replaced at the last minute, not a big deal. Yeah. It'd be not that Delroy Lindo is not a big deal. He's an amazing actor, but he's not Superman or Lois Lane, so it's not an unusual thing, not a big thing.
And not everyone can put their career on hold right now.
Yeah.
So you got to move on.
Yep. All right. What's next?
John Harris says, we need an R-rated Marvel Studios Wolverine versus Hulk movie directed by Sean Levy.
No. Wolverine versus Hulk is a scene. It's not a movie, I don't think. That's a scene.
Yeah.
So, maybe we get that at some point. That would be great. I'll be honest with you, though. I'm really more interested in a Hulk versus Thing fight. I'm a little bit more interested in that. Because in reality, one of the things they did in World War Hulk, although you can say the same thing about Thing, World War Hulk kind of demonstrated that Hulk versus Wolverine really isn't a fight. That's a pretty one-sided thing for Hulk in a Wolverine versus Hulk thing. That's not much of a fight. And when they got into Wolverine versus Hulk, but they did that. They also had a similar scene in the comics where Hulk and Thing, who really don't really like each other, but they run into each other in a diner and they're talking. And Hulk basically says, you do realize every time we've kind of fought, I've been really easy on you, right? And Thing is yeah, part of the reason why he hates him. So I think he's bitter. So it's not really a fight either way. But yeah, Hulk, a true Hulk versus Wolverine fight is actually not much of a fight, I don't think. All right, what's next?
Okay. Neftali says, have you checked with your sources to see if they still stand by their statement about Kathleen Kennedy stepping down after Indiana Jones, or have there been any updates or changes?
No, none. And that's the thing I talked about, right? I brought that up and I said, here's the reality of this business. I was told by some pretty reputable people prior to the end of 2023, early in 2023, that it wasn't coming, that it was done. All right? That it was done. That the decision had been made, and Kathleen Kennedy knows it and all that kind of stuff, that Kathleen Kennedy was no longer going to be the president of Lucasfilm. And she was definitely going to still be in the job until after Indiana Jones and the whatever it was. Indiana Jones and the Wheel of Cock Rings. What was it called?
That's exactly what it was. Dial of Destiny.
Dial of Destiny. Dial.
Oh,
and
man.
That could have been a more interesting movie. But
you didn't see the first 5 minutes.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
I missed the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Best one.
That was the key. But it was at very minimum, she would still be in the job until Dial of Destiny comes out. And then sometime between that and the end of the year, the calendar year 2023, they would make it public and she would step away. Not that it might happen, that it has happened. And as we got closer to the end of 2023, I started saying on the show, I was like, so when is this happening? Is she going? Because I got told it was done. And here we are now, halfway through 2024, and she's still there. This is the reason I'm not in the scoop game, man. This is the reason I'm not in the scoop game, because like you get told stuff, and no matter, regardless of how reputable those people are, maybe that was the case. Maybe the decision had been made and then something changed. I don't know. Or maybe it was never true in the first place. I don't know, but it was just one of those things, man. And I was very clear. Like, I had been told this. Now, sometimes I get pulled aside at CinemaCon and get told by somebody, just so you know, Keanu Reeves is our Shadow in the next Sonic movie. And it turns out that was true, and that turned out to be real. Okay. But I mean, this is why I don't get in the scoop game, man. Tis folly, I think. All right. What's next?
Going on to members. Moses says, hey guys, with the news of Shrek 5 being in development, many people are excited to see what's next for this franchise. Could we see Shrek 5 make $1 billion? I feel like it's very possible.
Impossible to say right now. Yeah. I mean, it's been so long since we've had a Shrek movie. Ray, look up for me. How much did the recent Puss in Boots make at the box office? Now, granted, Puss in Boots is not Shrek. It's a secondary character. But I don't know that Puss in Boots actually made a ton of money.
The Last Wish, right?
Yeah.
481.
You know what? That's not bad.
And the last Shrek was 750, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, 400, close to $500 million. That's better than I remember. That's not bad. Could be. Listen, I'll tell you what. Ask me that question again after Despicable Me 4 comes out. Because if Despicable Me 4 makes the kind of money that Inside Out is making, there could be a serious discussion about a Shrek 5 making $1 billion.
Shrek 4 got their titling right. Shrek Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Forever After.
All right, what's next?
Sorry, bad boys. Lori Howard says, hey, friends, what are the odds of a Joyride Girls Trip collab? Would be fun for all the women to meet somewhere fun like Rio, cruise ship, or the Maldives.
Joyride didn't make any money.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I mean, listen, I love both of those movies. I thought Girls Trip was fabulous. I laughed my guts out in that. And I think Joyride is straight up the best comedy in the last 10 years. I think it's the best comedy I've seen since 40-Year-Old Virgin. I really think it's that good. I think it's that funny, but nobody saw it, made no money. And, if you were going to do a Girls Trip sequel, the time to do it was within 2 years of the first one. The reality is the shine and star power of a lot of the cast in that aren't quite as big as it used to be. Certainly not, Will Smith's wife. Even Tiffany Haddish, who I like very much, she's not the draw that she was a couple of years ago. I think the window of opportunity for a Girls Trip 2, which I would have loved to have seen, but I think the window for opportunity has come and gone. But Joyride was just so good. All right, what's next?
Top Gun Manny says, didn't love Inside Out 2. It was still good, though. But I do love the fact that animation movies are kicking ass when the narrative was shifting towards them being more for streaming.
What was the point of that? What are they saying, do you think?
Just that he likes that animation is doing good in theaters, mainly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean...
Well, I think the narrative of all movies was heading towards streaming, not just animation, but...
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what everybody thought it was going to be. When the pandemic, everybody thought, oh, this is the way it's going to be. And then they realized, no, it's not. So, all right, what's next?
All right. Incognito Mode says, have you ever been to a Marcus Theater? I live close to one, and I love it there.
I don't believe so. I don't know if there's a Marcus film any. I mean, there certainly weren't any in Canada when I lived in Canada, and I don't think I've ever lived near one being down here, to be honest with you.
I'm pretty sure Marcus Theater was the theater we covered in the documentary.
It was.
Yeah.
Yes, in our movie trailers. I love the history of the Marcus Theaters is closely connected to the origin of movie trailers. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think I've ever been to one. All right, what's next?
Sadul says, do you think Marvel Studios will do either have a panel for SDCC or D23 Expo this year, or would they do both?
I think they'll do both. I think Marvel right now has to be in a full court press PR mode to really reestablish, remind people that they love the MCU because their content has made us forget a little bit. So I don't know this. I'm going to guess they will be. Again, just a guess, but I'm going to guess they'll do both. We'll see. All right, what's next?
TCB reporter says, will John Krasinski ever return as Reed Richards?
I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think
There's no
so.
need for him to at this point.
Yeah,
so
I think that was fan service.
yeah, probably not. All right, what's next?
Okay. Jonathan says, are there any lost movies or TV episodes you wish you could see? Sorry if this is a common question.
Lost movies?
Like, I guess, I mean, just like movies that you can't see anymore, I guess. I don't know.
Huh.
I'm sure there's a lot of movies that just streamers aren't carrying them and they're not on Blu-ray or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a way to find everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like for me, it was Megaforce. It took me a bit, but I was able to find Megaforce. So no, I mean, I guess, you know what? There was about a year or two ago, there was an old TV show when I was yet but a child called Automan.
Oh.
It was kind of like a bastardized ripoff version of Tron.
Huh.
Where it was a TV show about this character who comes out of a computer. I am Automan. And for what, I don't know if any of you guys in the live chat remember this, but I remember a few years ago it came up and I thought, I want to go back and watch an episode of that. And I don't think I was able to find it. I don't think I was able to find it.
With Desi Arnaz.
Oh, I remember.
Was Desi Arnaz in it?
Junior.
I remember, like,
Yes, that's it. That's Automan.
yeah.
Look at how stupid that looks.
Oh my god.
And he has an auto right here, a car.
That Christmas sweater though.
Yeah, I remember
See,
this.
it's totally a bastardized Tron,
I have
right?
image of this from my childhood. Yes. Oh, here's the shot where it's like in scene.
Oh my God.
Wow.
How bad is that? How bad is that? Oh my, but yeah. Anyway, so that came up and I was like, I should see if I can find, and I couldn't find it. So maybe a little bit of Automan. I don't know.
Justice for Automan.
There
All
you
right.
go.
We got time for like two more. What's next?
King Daddy Goes says, hey guys, hope all is well today. Have you seen the images for the Smashing Machine? The Rock looks unrecognizable in my opinion, and I hope he throws himself in this role given A24's track record for gold. What is what is your thoughts? Thanks, bring on the filthy.
Yeah, the images look good, but listen, we've been hearing, you guys have probably heard this too, that a number of insiders are saying The Rock is really good in this movie. Like that's what some industry people are saying. I've always thought Rock has turned himself into a very serviceable actor. Like he's not just The Rock anymore. When you go and watch movies like Snitch or Faster, like he shows he can be a legit actor. Like not Academy Award winning or anything, but a legit serviceable actor. But from what I'm hearing, and I'm sure many of you guys have read some of the same stuff too, there are people saying he's really good in this thing.
Holy crap, he doesn't look like The Rock here.
Yes, see if you can send the picture to Jonathan so he can bring it up on screen.
I'll try to. But it's called the Smashing Machine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like
Wow.
based on an MMA, the life of an MMA fighter and stuff like this. And again, surprisingly enough, a lot of people are saying that he's really, really good in this. And
So that's him, huh?
yep.
You could kind of
Whoa.
see it if you really look. But it's first glance, that's not The Rock.
Yeah, and coming from A24, I'm very interested in this. All right,
Interesting.
what's next?
All right. Joe Hallen says, hey, John and crew, I hope your day is going well. I was wondering if you think there'll be a special edition popcorn bucket for Alien Romulus. It'd be so cool if they did.
I don't think it's a big enough movie to warrant it, to be
Probably
honest
not.
with you.
It would be really cool, but yeah, you're going to do those for the tent poles. You want to sell those things out.
Yeah, because what are you going to do? You're going to have the alien mouth with a smaller alien mouth coming. That's it. The big alien mouth with popcorn around it. Then in the middle, a little alien mouth with the butter in the middle.
That's not an alien mouth.
Favorite mouth.
Following on the theme of what these buckets have been. Yeah, I am still waiting for another Deadpool popcorn bucket, though. I still believe there's going to be a second Deadpool popcorn bucket. Because we got the Wolverine version. I think there's going to be a Deadpool version. I don't know that for a fact. I'm guessing it will be. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget to come on back and join us again tomorrow. So for Ray Ora,
See you guys later.
Jonathan Voico,
See you guys tomorrow.
my name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.